Hey guys, it's Dan O'Donnell here. I'm back in Chiang Mai. So, different city, same shirt. Let's get into it. I've got a question, and I love that you guys are sending questions because it makes me know that somebody cares about what I'm talking about. So, Pekka Korhonen. Great tips, thanks man. I have a few follow-up questions. As a freelancer or business owner, how do you deal with the working visas? Do you have to relocate your company officially every time you travel from one country to another to keep it legal? And what's the deal with taxes? It's all this paperwork that is confusing me the most. Okay, so I will try to answer your questions as best I can. And obviously this is a huge question because it depends on, some of these questions depend on where you're from, depends on what country you're trying to go to, how long you're going to be there, what kind of a business you're doing. Like, are you working for companies locally in that country? You know, you're trying to get contracts with local companies or local people, or are you just working on the same business you were running in your home country, but now you're doing it from somewhere else? I'm trying to get out of the way so you can see my guitar because that makes me a cooler person, and my flag. If you know what country that flag is from, comment, because I'm trying to trick you. It's a trick question. Okay, so but that being said, so some of my answers might apply to some people, but not all people, all right? So, you know, I'm not your lawyer. I'm not your visa consultant. I'm not your accountant. I'm not those things. But I can tell you what I know works for me and what has worked for other people, or at least what's working for them so far. You know, strategies may change. But, okay, so the first part of the question, how do you deal with the working visas? Lingo on visas is very important. A lot of times people are using the wrong terms for things. So I'll just tell you what I'm doing. I have an education visa, and I've done an education visa in the past. I did an education visa to learn Thai language. I did 1 year on that shortly after I first came to Thailand. And right now I'm on a self-defense hand-to-hand combat education visa, which is only in Chiang Mai. So, you know, if you're somewhere else like Bangkok or Phuket, you'll have different language schools, Muay Thai visas, which is also an education visa. I heard, and I haven't confirmed this, but it sounds like there is now a Muay Thai education visa in Chiang Mai, which is cool. So I might go check out that gym, take a look at it. I've still got 6 months left on my current education visa, but if I like the gym and it's not too far away, I might consider doing that Muay Thai visa. So in Thailand, education visas are a really good way to be able to stay in the country and not have to leave every 90 days. So to break it down a little bit specifically for Thailand, a lot of people just come in either on the visa exemption, which depending on your country, for a lot of countries, it gives you 30 days, just the stamp it that you get at the airport, and then you can extend that for 30 more days. My battery's getting low. So you can extend it for 30 more days. Basically, you can get 60 days on a trip without doing any kind of actual visa. You just get the exemption at the airport. That's by air. So again, if it's by land, it's different. Depends on what country you're from, so check on the details. Some people just do that over and over and over again. The word on the street is after about 5 or 6 of those, they start saying, you need to get a real visa or do something here. You can't just keep doing this forever. There are some countries that aren't like that. They don't really care. Like my dad's been in Costa Rica for, 8 years now, and he just keeps doing the same border run every 90 days. He goes to Nicaragua, hangs out on the beach for a day, has lunch, watches the baseball game on TV, and then comes back. So in Costa Rica, it seems like nobody cares. And at the border, they look at his stamps and they say, oh, you really should think about getting residency or doing something. And he says, oh, thanks. That's the same thing you told me the last 7.5 years. But in Thailand, you can do those trips often until you hit 5 or 6 or so. Then you might convert it over to, say, an education visa, or if you go to your home country, and again, this might not apply to all countries, but I'm American, and if I go home, I can get a multiple entry tourist visa, which, to the summary of it, is it's a 6-month visa, but if you do your last entry, or do an entry right before it expires, that entry, you can work 3 months out of that entry. So basically, it's a 6-month visa, but you can get 9 months out of it if you time it right. And that doesn't cost much. I haven't done that one, so I forget, but I want to say it's like $150 or somewhere in there, like hundreds of dollars, not thousands. The education visa tends to be around $1,000 US. I did it, the language visa was about $1,000 bucks. My current visa is about $1,000. I haven't really heard of any that are much cheaper than that. And then I have friends that are on, or a friend who's on a volunteer visa. He teaches kids how to swim. He volunteers at a school basically, and it's whatever they need him to do. And it's not a huge time commitment. You know, he goes there, I don't know, every week or two or something, and spends a day teaching kids to swim or whatever, teaching English. That might be pretty fun. I've never done that myself. So anyway, visas. It used to be more common that, and maybe people are still doing it, but I don't know anybody that's currently on a business visa, where the idea being, the way I understand it, is that you are coming to do business as your business with Thai businesses. So I don't know, that might mean like exporting, or maybe you're hiring Thai businesses to help you with web development or something. I knew a guy that was doing that, but I heard it got a little more complicated, a little harder, so he's not, I don't think he's doing that anymore. Okay, any other visas I'm missing? Yeah, that's pretty much what most people are doing. Down in Phuket, a lot of people are on Muay Thai visas, education visas. Some of them are just doing that because they like being in Thailand, and it's not for reasons of, you know, remote working or anything. Okay, next part of the question. Every time you travel from country to country, do you relocate your company? So my company, I've got, some of the stuff I do is just sole proprietorship, things where I don't really feel like there's any liability or risk, or there's not a lot of money coming in. So I just, honestly, the way I look at it, I don't think I'm a big juicy target for some lawyer, some ambulance chaser or whatever. But for example, I have an LLC that owns real estate. So did you notice how I did not say I own real estate? I said I manage an LLC, or I have an LLC that owns real estate. So there's that layer of protection to limit the liability if a tenant, you know, falls down some stairs or whatever may happen, you know, things like mold issues. So I do have protection there. With some other things I don't. So to answer your question, I do not move my entities around or companies around depending on where I am, and how to keep it legal, and what's the deal with taxes. Okay, so by the way, this topic gets heated. I see people freaking out in Facebook groups and forums and things about you know, if you should be paying taxes in Thailand, or, you know, if you should be paying taxes back home. People get really emotional about this. Like, some people think it's your duty to pay taxes in your home country, and you're a loser if you don't. Other people feel like they don't want to buy bombs and bullets for their home country. Like, my country happens to buy a lot of bombs and bullets, and ethically, well, first of all, legally, if I'm outside the country for more than 330 days a year, and again, this is just the broad strokes, I'm not your accountant, but as a U.S. citizen, if you're gone most of the year, you're not liable for taxes on your first approximately $100,000 of income, which is cool, because you're not there, you're not using the infrastructure, and so I personally like that feeling of not buying bombs and bullets. I won't get into that, that's a whole nother discussion. So as an American, basically, if you don't go home for more than about a month a year, you're not on the hook for U.S. taxes for your first $100,000. And if you're making more than $100,000, there are strategies. You can form a corporation in a country that has no corporate income tax. I know one of my neighbors in particular who's doing that. Belize, Panama, some of the islands, you know, are what you hear about. It's the same kind of thing that politicians accuse each other of. You know, you're not a true patriot because you have a corporation offshore and you're not paying taxes. Well, okay, but I think the United States was also partly founded on people not wanting to pay taxes, at least not without representation. And if I'm over here and I'm not benefiting from the taxes, I don't feel bad about that. So sorry, everybody. And by the way, federal income taxes are not the only taxes you pay. So I have real estate in the United States, and there's quite a bit of property tax that we're paying on that. And that's the stuff that funds the fire department, the schools, the parks. So don't think that just because you're not paying federal income taxes or whatever you call it in your home country, don't think you're not paying taxes. Every time I fly somewhere, I look at the price of my ticket and then the price of like fuel and airport taxes and it breaks it down. And it's a big chunk, you know, so there's a lot of indirect taxation going on. The price of goods that you're buying in the store, you know, those store owners are paying all kinds of different employment taxes and blah, blah, blah. So that's built into the price you're paying. Anyway, so go ahead and I'm sure somebody's going to yell at me about this. That's fine. Not everybody sees eye to eye on that, and that's okay. Okay. So he says, it's the paperwork that is confusing me the most. And I probably should have started with this point, but again, I said it in a different video. You can't wait till all the lights are green to leave the house. That's one of my favorite quotes. You can figure it out as you go. Dropped my pen. So don't get stuck on the paperwork and not start. If you come over to some country and you end up getting kicked out or whatever, there's like a couple hundred other countries you can work from. Really, I think people, there's this, what do they call it? Analysis paralysis, or the fear of the unknown. And like I got audited by the state of Washington, where I'm from. My business got audited because we were a flea market, and I'm sure people think like, oh, those flea market guys, I'm sure they're just selling everything and not paying taxes. But we did pay state taxes, and they came in to audit me, and I handed them a stack of papers, a ridiculous stack of papers, like, here you go, these are our sales reports. And they're like, oh, you don't keep them on a spreadsheet or something? I'm like, no, we write it down with a pen every day, and you're welcome to go through it. It's not going to be real convenient. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I've been audited by the state government, and it was a pain in the butt, but the end result was absolutely nothing. They're like, yeah, it looks okay. It looks messy, and we're surprised you do it on paper, but you're good. So I wouldn't let that stop you. I think the risk of not acting because you're afraid of something that might go wrong usually is a bigger and more real risk than whatever it is, whatever boogeyman that you're kind of afraid of because you don't understand it. I think people that don't totally understand things, they just get frozen, and that is costing you more quite often, I think, than just taking some action and having some risk. I mean, life is risk, right? Like, the riskiest thing you ever did was being born. So get out there and try some stuff, and you might have to adjust your strategies. Like maybe Thailand gets crazy about immigration, and maybe I have to move to Malaysia someday. And right now, Malaysia is kind of my plan B because it's just right over there. It's like a 2-hour flight. And actually, I like the look of Singapore too, but it's expensive. It seems to me like Singapore is like the Switzerland of Asia, and it's more what Switzerland used to be. Like privacy of banking records and a strong defense, but they're not out fighting wars. I like it. I dig it. Low corporate taxes, so they attract like Google has a headquarters there, and Amazon has a headquarters there, and it's because I think their corporate tax, I think it's like 10% or something. It's low. So they attract these big companies, and even though they're charging lower rates of taxes, they're flourishing. Property rights. Anyway, I dig it. They seem kind of like a libertarian place to hang out. So I'm way off topic, but I hope that helps you guys out. 12 minutes in here. Hope that answers your question specifically. Thank you for submitting that. And if you have other related questions or on totally different topics that you think I might be competent on, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to do these. These videos are fun. I don't edit at all, so literally 90% of the time is spent making the video, and the other 10% is like writing the description and the title and then letting it upload. So it's fun, and I'll be probably doing quite a few more of these. So thanks, guys. Submit your questions. I guess every YouTuber is supposed to say, subscribe over here or down there or wherever, or send me $5 in an envelope in the mail, whatever. So I hope you like it. Talk to you later.